The following is a paid program and does not necessarily express the views or opinions of Equity Media, its management, staff, or affiliates of WBOK.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Dr. Clark's 101, the Living Classroom. And today we're going to talk Politics 101, actually Politics and Gen Z 101. I have two individuals who know the good, Miss Olympia Mungo, who's at Dillard University, and she is the class of 26 from from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And also Miss Cadence Busby, who is the class of 27 from Dillard University. And both of these are actually political science majors. They're two of our finest, outstanding students in politics and government. But we want to talk some Gen Z politics. And many of us, when we look at politics itself, we realize and understand that politics can be segmented. And political consultants and others always like to segment politics because we like to know what rubric you're from. And that Gen Z's generation, your generation of this generation of politics, we like to get an idea of what's important to Gen Z, what motivates that generation to go and vote, and what are some of the things that in reality you say that they are disincentives. And what we're going to do is we'll start with you, Olympia Mungo, and I want you to talk to us about your peers and what motivate your peers to vote and to bring them to the polls and to engage in political participation.
Yes, when it comes to my peers and political participation, they are very, very focused on holistic approaches when it comes to policy nowadays. Things like mental health that may not have been such big topics of conversation in previous generations are very important to ours, or fair pay, equal pay. They also tend to really push for the things that the generations before us were able to achieve, but in enhancing those even further and making things more equitable. So things that come from an equitable standpoint or perspective are what my peers look for in candidates, in policy proposals. That's really what drives them to the booths.
And I have the same question for you, Ms. Busby. What do you see as motivators among your peers that will bring them to the polls?
I would agree with Ms. Mongo. I think that the effects of what's going on right now in the political climate that we live in is a driving force in who we look for in political candidates. Seeing the effects of the reverse of Roe v. Wade with abortion, that was a big one. You can see the amount of protests that was had, just the backlash that was received. Many people in my generation, of course, disagree with that. Fair everything. Like if something is unfair, that is a driving force in our generation wanting to change that, and wanting to see change.
Now, let me get to the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is this: voter apathy. We hear all the times individuals discuss and they talk about voter apathy and that individuals, and they say in particular there are those who would say, well, you know what, you can't get young people to vote anymore. And what is it that motivates a young person? But would you say? And I will start this time with you, Ms. Busby. This voter apathy amongst young people, and I have my own perception. I'm going to give you my belief regarding voter apathy. But tell us exactly voter apathy. Why individuals and young people do not want to participate in the same degree that other generations have?
I fear it may be, and this could be a controversial opinion, but I fear it could be or it could stem from generational trauma. I mean, we we were raised around our parents and their parents, and the notion that our voice singularly does not matter in household conversations, in conversations that go on in general, and that translates to voting, that translates to political rights. Because as a young person, if my parents say, "Oh, well, your voice doesn't matter. We're not talking to you right now. Stay in a child's place." I'm now 20 years old. Do I still stay in a child's place? I don't know when or how, because now that's territory that I haven't ventured into, because I've been staying in a child's place for 18 years. Now that I'm 19, 20, getting out ready to vote, it's unknown territory. It's scary to some people.
Yes.
So I feel like that's a big factor in it, and that's not a factor that I feel like a lot of people, especially a lot of people in the older generation, may think of, because they don't even realize that that's happening.
Now, before I go to Ms. Mongo, you mentioned generational trauma. And so that's a whole sector in that.
That
and-
it is.
Yeah.
It's an entire thing within itself, because, like I said, the older generation doesn't even realize that they're creating generational trauma, that they're feeding off of generational trauma. And as a generation, my generation, Gen Z, has been actively trying to reverse it. You see a lot of notions and a lot of just things in general of trying to reverse what we've been taught and ending the cycle.
Okay, very good. Yes.
Before I proceed, that
Yes.
was a very unique perspective, and I actually appreciated listening to it from Ms. Busby just now. Now, my perspective, I actually have a few reasons as to why I think that young people are slower to the polls when it comes to certain circumstances. One, I believe, is the misconception that as a collective we cannot impact change. And that comes from just having the idea that we've been fighting for the same rights, the same privileges, the same humanitarian necessities for decades and centuries, particularly in the Black community. And so some people in younger generations, in Gen Z, tend to see it as, okay, well, how long do we have to continue to fight for these things? What is the point in continuing to labor for these things that we will never tangibly be able to see? That is one of the misconceptions. The other one that I don't think we elaborate on often enough is the way that history is taught in our educational systems. We are taught that the civil rights movement has a start and end date, when in reality, the civil rights movement never ended. They teach it to us like that intentionally, I believe, so that we can be more comfortable and be more easy to be complacent with the rights that we have gained through the generations before us, and all of the work they did. They toiled to achieve voting rights, to achieve just many realities that we take for granted. Roe v. Wade, we were so comfortable and thought that it was ingrained until it got overturned. And it wasn't until then that many people woke up and started to realize that democracy, it doesn't keep itself going. These rights are not promised, and oftentimes they're viewed as privileges. So I think that as long as we continue to push forward that harmful notion, teaching this in schools, teaching this in history, whatever it may be, that the civil rights movement actually had an end date, people are going to view our society in a way that is just, it's not actually accurate.
Okay, I see what you're saying, and I do like what you say in terms of the civil rights movement itself. To say that it has a beginning and an end, and this leads me to both of you all, and the concept of more than a concept, the woke generation, the woke, and not just generation, but woke as a philosophy. And I'd like for you to talk about woke and in terms of the philosophy, in terms of this particular generation of individuals who are highly involved in, I'll put this in quotes, Black politics. And we'll start with you. Yes.
Yes, when it comes to the woke culture in our generation, there are many aspects to it.
Right.
People like to say that being woke consists of being enlightened, if you would, being enlightened on various topics and not conforming to things simply because they're tradition. So having the mindset that just because something has always been viewed this way doesn't mean that it's correct. Just because something is rooted in tradition, whether it be a community tradition, a tradition in a black household, a tradition in just your society or where you live, that doesn't mean that that needs to continue to be perpetuated. So being woke directly challenges ideologies that are supposed to be perceived as harmful but have been normalized instead.
Okay, exactly. And your perspective, Ms. Busby, in terms of the woke as a philosophy and how it fits within the total scheme of black political growth and development.
I think unintentionally, Miss Mongo's last answer answered what woke is. Like understanding the fact that the civil rights movement didn't end. There was no start and end date. Yes, there was a start, but the end date, it hasn't come. There is no
Yeah.
end. We should be constantly fighting for our rights that our ancestors were fighting for. And I think that's what it is. Now, are there individuals who are split half and half? There are individuals who are like Mongo and who are very open and understand the true principles of what we need to be fighting for. And then there are individuals who are just woke and repost things on their social media and say,
Mhm.
oh, BLM, and don't actually do anything or actually understand what's going on.
Now, I want both of you to respond to this as well. Let's look at the legacy organizations, and I'd like for you to talk to expand upon the value and the role of the legacy organization. I say legacy organizations with respect to your generation. I'm talking about the NAACP, the
Mhm.
Urban League, those organizations that existed, and also with Reverend Al Sharpton, with the National Alliance. Yes, talk about the various nature of the legacy organizations and Generation Z.
So, the nature of these legacy organizations, I've started to realize that now the role that they play specifically in terms of Generation Z, it's more of an educational focus. So these organizations are working really, really hard to make sure that education is something that is ingrained deeply within our community. And I see that as a very important way of going about things, specifically in this climate where education sometimes is sold as a foreign concept to people who look like us, or something that isn't actually fully attainable, or maybe like something that isn't necessary and is just a money scam. I think it's really important to remind our community exactly why we fought to be educated in the first place, why we fought to be able to learn to read, to learn to write. Those things cannot have been in vain. So focusing on those scholarship funds for minority and black students and those pipeline programs, those professional and personal development programs, I think that's really important for our generation specifically. So while every organization's mission changes and adapts over time, I think that this is one of the ways in which we are actually doing pretty great.
Yes. Okay, very good. And so, Ms. Busby, yes, the woke organizations, their value, their role, and their perception within Generation Z, Gen
I
Z.
I would agree, but I also feel like during the civil rights movement, the individuals that were during the sit-ins, that were doing the freedom rides, they were college students. So in this day and time, I feel like it would be very beneficial if understanding the educational route, because that's very important, but also it should be some type of partnership because those individuals that were doing it then can't do it now. You need young individuals to do what they were doing then so that we can continue and actually make what we're talking about happen. So I
Now,
feel like that partnership should be really important.
I'm glad that I have you here because both of you come from different areas of the country, uh, Dallas, Texas, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. And the beauty of this is that you come from different political cultures and different political environments. And I want you, and I will start with you, Cadence, to talk about the nature of the political culture and the political environment that you were born into, that you have in Dallas, in Texas, as opposed when you come to here in the city of New Orleans? And how do you see the different political environments, if any?
I
How
do
does it
believe there is a difference in the political environments. Coming from Dallas, Texas, I feel like I don't know about here, but in Dallas, the school political environment, like within school districts, is very strong. In high school, like I remember trying to get bonds approved, and even I just went home like 2 weeks ago. My dad was talking about it, and he was talking about the bond getting approved in DeSoto. Like it's just different. The political climate is really strong within schools, and it's really strong, of course, within like local governments. Um, but I feel like it's a decent turnout. Like a lot of people turn out, a lot of people care. Of course, there's very opinionated people that have something to say and want their voices to be heard. Um, yeah, I would. It's people are very engaged. I would say that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how do you translate the political environment in the North, in Minnesota? When you look at the political environment that exists here in Deep South.
I honestly, this is something that I've thought about ever since I started
Yes.
coming to college in New Orleans. The political environment is tr- very, very different in Minneapolis, Minnesota. People are a lot more engaged. There's a lot of hands on grassroots and community organizing, various types of events. Students are willing to walk out of schools, disrupt
Where's
classes.
this?
This is in Minneapolis.
Okay, okay.
This is in Minneapolis. Students are willing to do those things. They're willing to be those advocates for themselves, whether it's even in terms of just school policies or major bills. If there was something that happened that disrupted the community, people are very, very engaged when it comes to things like that. And if I'm being completely honest, I was a bit taken aback when I came to New Orleans and didn't see that same drive. I don't believe that it's because of the passion, but I think maybe the circumstances and the views on attainability when it comes to change. I think that's what I've observed, that we in Minneapolis really see that in order for something to be attainable, we have to be the ones to get up, to use our voices, to do those things, host those events, go the extra mile. And here I've kind of seen a certain underlying culture of doubt when it comes to how feasible are these things? Like how feasible is it? Like how can we actually use our voices to attain these things? It doesn't matter. We're going to try over and over, and is it actually going to make a difference?
Well, let me turn the conversation again real quickly. And I want to talk about the national candidates. And both of y'all experienced the last presidential campaign, and you saw their campaign, and you saw the nature of what went down. And I want you to talk about the nature of a female candidate for president, uh, or male president for candidate for president, and the nature itself of women in politics. And do you? And there was been a recent statement that Michelle Obama said that I'm paraphrasing here, that a country may not necessarily be ready for a female president. And I'd like for you to and to respond to that, and also from your perspectives. And yes, we'll start with you. Yes,
Yes, when
Ms.
it comes
Mongo.
to women in politics, a topic that everyone loves, I believe that there is truth in the statement that a country may not be ready for a female president, a woman as president. Now, one thing I do like to challenge people to think about, though, is if a woman can be entrusted with some of the most valuable parts of a person's life: childcare, taking care of the home, all of the nurturing aspects, and playing all of the multiple roles, wearing multiple hats all of the time, then why is it that when it comes to political conversations, women's ability is doubted, and then those same skills are flipped on their head to then say, oh, well, the woman might be too emotional, but you like that emotion when it comes to nurturing, don't you? Oh, well, the woman might have too many thoughts and too many feelings. They might think too much, too hard about certain things, but you like those things when it comes to making sure that every aspect of your household is put together nicely after you come home from work, don't you? So I really challenge people to think about the fact that having a woman as president, it's not something that you can view in a narrow-minded way. The same way having a man as president, you should judge the candidate by their values and their credentials, not by baseless stereotypes that honestly just take away from the political conversation at the end of the day. It's a waste of time, and it's quite frankly very undermining to this democracy as well.
Yes.
Yes, I would agree. I think it's very evident, especially coming from Dallas and our representative being Jasmine Crockett, the the way she doesn't care. She's very much unbothered. She is unapologetically her. And you can tell that the responses that she's gotten, the backlash she's received on social media, the world isn't ready. And that's a black woman who's just being herself. And it's not that when she's speaking she's not educated, she's incorrect. No, everything she says is factual. She's correct. And you can just in the courtrooms, in the situations that she's in, they're not ready. And it's unfortunate because everything that Miss Mongo said is correct. It's appalling actually. Like it's actually kind of crazy when you think about it. The fact that women do all of these things in society and when it comes to running a country, that's just out of the picture. That could never happen. They're not ready. Really? It's just crazy.
Well, I would argue that for my purposes, it's not a question about whether or not a country is ready or any particular office is ready. You have to make them ready, which is the way it works. You have to
Yeah.
make them ready, and that's what becomes important. And I think is this Dr. Clark's living classroom? Yes.
Hi, how you doing?
Yes. You have a question?
Well, not necessarily a question, just weighing in. You kind of just said it, but I started calling anyway. The way that we change the country, not embracing and not wanting a female in charge, is we have to begin to take charge of the narrative. They have taken charge of the narrative, and we have fell into that trap. So it's up to us. And I don't call ourselves a minority because we're not minority. That's another trap that we're in. We're actually the majority as a culture. But we keep falling into these traps that they have created. But it's time for us because Gen Z is different, right? So it's time for us to reposition our thinking, shift our mindset. And that's with everything. And I just want to say this so people can kind of relate. You know, we have a myth saying that something such as diabetes is generational, but actually it's not generational. What's generational is the way that we eat. We eat the same way our parents and our grandmothers have taught us to eat, and then we shy away from, quote unquote, the right way to eat. Like we're not educated on the white things turn into sugar, and our culture have the greatest impact on what sugar causes, which is diabetes. So once we start changing the narrative of the way we think, we'll make them ready. They don't have to be ready. We'll make them ready. So thank you for taking my call.
All right, wonderful. That's Gumbo Heard. Yes, indeed. I agree 100%. That's the narrative. You have control over the narrative. We have control over the narrative. And so you make them ready, and you declared it ready. Mm-hmm. One of the greatest statements I lived through this particular period, Muhammad Ali. Ali always said they wasn't the greatest until he told them he was the greatest. Then he became the greatest. Mm-hmm. But in the remaining minutes that we do have, I'd like you to tell us what led you to New Orleans and what led you to come to Dillard University and choose political science as a major. Yes, Ms. Cadence, yes.
So Dillard University specifically was because of volleyball. But
you're a volleyball athlete, yes.
Yes, I am.
And talk about your
two-time champion, by the way, who just won back to back. But originally in high school, I wanted to go to Oklahoma, and the stuff with George Floyd happened, and I was like, "Whoa, what? Not going there." So my family laughs at me now because every time they bring it up, I'm like, "Well, did you want to see me hung in a ditch somewhere?" And they laugh at me, and I'm like, "I'm being for real." Like it really, when you talk about being woke, it woke me up. I'm not doing that. I'm scared. Even traveling with volleyball, we had to go somewhere in Alabama. Alabama? And then you go there, you win. You don't know how people react. It's just that whole situation really, really woke me up. And it's like I don't want to live in fear. And the way of me teaching myself not to live in fear is to go where I know I'm safe. And granted, we're in New Orleans. Anything could happen. But still, I'm on a campus with people that look like me. I'm studying political science to help myself get out of my fear and to help others get out of their fear. At the end of the day, learning political science has helped me so much. It's educated me in ways outside of the field that I didn't even think were possible. So now I'm equipped with what I need, and I'm steadily every day learning something new that's helping me and will help me in the future and will help other people. So just that the whole situation with George Floyd is really what sparked my interest in going into a HBCU in the first place. And everything that's happened since then and the political world has kept me here.
And to study power relations.
Right.
It's fantastic. Yes, Miss Mungo, Miss Olympia Mungo, yes.
Yes, when it comes to having left Minneapolis to come to New Orleans for college, we don't have HBCUs in Minnesota. And as I was preparing to apply for college, I applied to many different types of schools. I made sure that HBCUs were on the list. And as I was making my decisions, I applied to 10 schools. By the grace of God, I got into all of them. But I really wanted to make sure that I went somewhere where it was more than just an education on paper and something that felt like community, something that would allow me to grow in ways that I wouldn't otherwise be able to grow, in ways that I couldn't imagine. And the more I looked into HBCUs, the more I learned about Dillard and the community and just how students who would look like me would uplift one another. The faculty would uplift students, all those things. I was like, okay, so this is terrifying. I'm going across the country for school. I literally do not have any family out there, don't know anyone, but I took that leap of faith and it was the best decision I ever made to attend a historically black university for my undergraduate education. Choosing political science, honestly, that was me walking into my calling. I came in as a biology major and I changed my major because I realized that science did not ignite me. And when I tried to think about what did, it was the field of law. It was political science, learning how the world works and why it works the way it does. The power and responsibility that the law yields. Those things have really channeled my purpose in greater ways. And honestly, I would do it all over again. George Floyd happened in my backyard. I was like, okay, this is insane. You know, there's nowhere black people can go where we can truly feel safe. But I was like, so what am I going to do about that to make that narrative different for my children and their children and generations for years to come?
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. And mention also that you also have an award-winning thing. She's an award-winning volleyball player, and also with the pre-law, program in moot court. You all doing it. You all are very and highly successful, are you not?
Yes, we've been doing very well in mock trial. We came home with several awards from our past competition in Houston.
That's outstanding. And again, I want to thank both of you for joining me. I know you're going to come again in 2026 and join the program. Will you both?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Of course.
And again, this is Dr. Clark's One-on-One, the Living Classroom. And you can follow me on all platforms of social media. And as always, it's been a pleasure.